Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and this is a multitasking video, kind of a porch talk, but in my car. And I'm in my car because I'm waiting for a tow. Bummer. But I want to talk about Colin Curry's ensemble's performance of a Steve Reich tribute I saw last night. It was an amazing concert, and there's a lot to say about it. So Colin Curry's ensemble, along with the Synergy vocals, did 3 Reich pieces. They began with Tehillim, which is an early 80s piece it's a real alleluia, an exaltation, very exciting, great vocals. And then the second piece on the first half was a brand new piece, I think just premiered a couple of days ago at Carnegie Hall with the same ensemble. The Traveler's Prayer, unusual for Reich in that instead of the mallet percussion and drums that we associate with him, that perseverating rhythm and shaker and stuff, rather just vocals and strings, really simple, non-vibrato strings. It brought to mind early music almost, and there's some beautiful sort of transparent textures, just spectacular playing. After the intermission, they came back, changed the setup on the stage. Of course, they have to make a huge change to do music for 18 musicians. I first heard music for 18 musicians in 1977 when it was young, and it's been a mainstay, kind of a linchpin of contemporary American and really, I guess, world music, at least from some perspectives, since then. And most of the recordings I've heard, and I've never heard it live, kind of try to be perfect. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like fast 8th note energy. There's repeated figures. There's phrases that interlock, and it's just a spectacular kind of test of an ensemble's ability to stay together. And you can imagine, I mean, the temptation in making that recording or producing a record for it is to try to get it perfect, in perfect tune, in perfect rhythm. And what was spectacular about last night, listening to the ensemble, was that it just wasn't perfect. It was musical. 18 musicians on stage include 4 vocalists, violin, cello, couple of clarinet players who play bass and soprano, clarinet, 2 pianists, marimba, vibraphone, xylophone, shakers, lots of interesting things. Parts lock up like this and interact like that and alternate, that kind of drumming style that gives you kind of like a patterned, it's hocketing is sometimes is what it's called, when you create a resultant melody or rhythm from interlocking parts. And if those parts aren't synced exactly, there's a kind of a flamming or phasing effect that happens. And what I discovered listening last night was that phasing and flamming effect, slight discrepancies in tuning, created a deeper ability for me to go into the parts, to listen more closely to parts which I thought I knew very, very well. I heard things in the performance last night that in all of the recordings I've heard, I never was able to pick out before. And I listen deeply to recordings. I'd never heard it live before. It was thrilling to hear it live. When you listen live, something can happen to us. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably a musician, and you may have had at some point in your life a galvanizing moment when you realized sound and music was something that you wanted to pursue with depth and with intention. For me, that happened when I was very young. And the way it happened was I was at a symphony concert. The symphony was in front of me. I'm not sure if I'd never seen a symphony before, but maybe not very often. We'll just put it that way. And the spread of instrumentalists across the stage in front of me, 50 players probably, right? And I was pretty close because it was a small provincial orchestra in Maine, what it covered probably 100 degrees, maybe more, of my sort of visual field, and of course my audio field as well. And I discovered there as a young person that if I closed my eyes, I could pull the sound of the orchestra felt like inside my head. Really, I suppose I should say more accurately, it felt like my sort of sensorium was wrapping around the sound. And this is a really powerful tool for listening, for deep listening. Close your eyes and wrap your hearing sensorium around the sound. Bring it inside your mind. And it sounds like a peyote-induced hallucination, but it's a very powerful way to get down deep into a production. It's very hard to do this with recorded music. It's best to be in the room with the band, right? Or the ensemble, or the symphony, or whatever you're listening to. Many of my students lament that they don't have ideas for production, or they don't have a kind of a creative angle on some things. And I think one of the main things we can do to feed our heads as musicians is to get out and see some live music. And when I say get out and see some live music, I don't mean a DJ at your local club, or even really, sometimes even just a rock band won't do it for you too, because it's so like mono and like, PA oriented. Live acoustic music, ensembles that give you a sound field that's diverse, that has depth front and back, left and right, high and low. I mean, bottom and top. The room has a sound. The kick drum pedal sounds different from the kick drum, right? We should be able to pick out all of that. Well, this performance with these amazing musicians on stage at Zellerbach had all of that. It was just a radiant, luminous experience, and the sort of depth of concentration that it took, it kind of exhausted me. I have to say, it was really something special. In the best possible way. I mean, just kind of like, it didn't drain me, it exhausted. It pushed everything else out. There's nothing there but the sound. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm composing, when I'm performing, when I'm playing. I want to find that zone. And that zone is present for us with attention, kind of whenever you want to get there. Wrap your head around the sound. Get out to see some live acoustic music. Wrap your head around the sound. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe. Ding the bell, you'll be notified when I do my videos. And if I ever get out of this car, I'll see you next time.